Hi guys, still your girl Helen. Hope you guys are doing great. This is part 4 of our music theory for beginners. Okay, so in part 1 we talked about the musical alphabet, like how it's also the chromatic scale and how it involves all of the notes we'll be working with, like all of the notes, all the keys in music. Okay, and then we went on in part 2 to derive the major scale from that chromatic scale, right? And then using the tone tone semitone tone 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 semitone formula to derive the major scale, right? In part 3 we further broke down the major scale to derive triads. Okay, so we derived major triads, minor triads, diminished, augmented, and so on, right? I told you there are many more, but we just did 4 in the last lesson. So today we are going to treat something that's called a chord scale. Okay, now this is like all of the chords available to you in a particular key or a particular scale. All right, maybe not all of the chords, but like the basics of chords that are mostly used and are available to you in that key. Okay, so it's called the chord scale, and that's what we're going to be treating today. Like this will further solidify your music theory foundation, and also we can also look at how it applies to the guitar. All right, so let's get into it. All right guys, so the first thing we want to do is figure out the key that we're playing in, and it's in the key of G major. Okay, so these are the keys, these are the notes in the key of G major, because we're taking it as a root note right now, like because it starts from here, right? So the first thing we want to do is create a triad from the G major scale. Okay, and we know that that's 1 3 5, right? So I'm creating a triad from G major. We have G, the third will be, and the fifth will be D, right? Okay, so this is a major chord, and we know this is a major chord because in the last lesson we said 1 3 5 from any major scale is a major chord, right? Okay, so the second thing we are going to do now is treat each individual note of this G major scale as the root note. Now, what is a root note? The root note is like the origin of a series of notes, or the origin of a scale, right? Where it starts from. It's mostly like the lower part if you're playing like the in pitch wise, you understand? So that's the root note. Okay, so we're going to, let's pretend for a moment that this G is not here and this A is our 1. Okay, so something like this. So we'll take A as our 1 now and create a triad from A. All right, so creating a triad and making A 1, we'll have A as 1, right? C will be the third, right? 1 2 3, and 1 2 3 4 5. E will be the fifth. Okay. Now for this one we don't know, because we're starting from A, right? So we don't know if this is a major, minor, or diminished chord, the second degree. All right, so what we have to do is now compare this to the root note. So we have to compare this to the A major scale. Okay, that's how we would know the tonality of this chord, like if it's a major, minor, or diminished, or whatever. Okay, so what we have to do is get out the notes that make up the A major scale. And so we know here, these are the notes in the A major scale. If you follow your tone tone semitone tone 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 semitone that we learned the last time in previous lessons, you would know that you'd come up with this, with that formula. Okay, so this is the A major scale. All right, so we now want to find out the notes here. We now want to like ask ourselves a couple of questions. Is there A in the A major scale? Yes, there is. It's the 1. So we have 1. Okay, so now we want to, going further, is there a C in the A major scale? The answer is no. there's a C sharp instead. All right, but we have a C here. That means the C here has been flattened. That means the C here is flat instead of C sharp, because C sharp is the third in the A major scale, as you can see here. So it's a flattened third. The C here is a flattened third according to the A major scale. Okay, so now we know that this is a flattened third. We still don't know if it's a minor or diminished chord. The fifth will tell us that. Okay, so now is there an E in the A major scale? Looking at the A major scale, yes, there is an E. So we know that the fifth is not flattened or sharped or anything. So we know that the E is our fifth, right? So now we know that this chord here is a minor chord because it fits this formula: 1, flat, 3, and 5. So we know that this is a minor. Okay, so moving further, we want to find out the third. We will now treat B as the first. Okay, so we're pretending that this doesn't exist right now for now. Okay, so B is the first. We'll consider creating a triad from B, using B as our root note. Okay, so we'll have B. All right, 1, 2, 3. We'll have D. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we'll have F sharp. Now we want to know what kind of chord this is, just like we did for the A. So we'll treat B like the root note. So what we want to do is look at the notes in the key of B major. So these are the notes in the key of B major, right? We have 5 sharps in the key of B major: B, C sharp, D sharp, E, F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, and back to B. All right, so this is the B major scale here. Is there a B in the B major scale? Yes, and that is 1, right? So 1 is confirmed. All right, so look, is there a D in the B major scale? No, instead there's a D sharp. That means the D here is flat. All right, because D sharp is higher than D. D is lower than D sharp here. All right, so we know that we have a flat third. All right, and then the last thing we want to do is ask, is there F sharp in the B major scale? Yes, there is, and that's the fifth. Okay, so we know that there is a fifth. All right, so we know that this chord here, because it has a 1, a flat third, and a fifth, we know that this chord here is a minor chord. All right, so we write minor here, and now the fourth is the C. Okay, so we'll treat C like the root note. Okay, so we'll have C, we'll make C our 1, just like we did previously. C, 1, 2, 3, E, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, G. I told you before that G is the only scale that doesn't have any sharp or flat. So we know that this will be a pure 1, 3, 5, and this would be major. Okay, because it's natural, it doesn't have any sharp or flat, it has not been altered. The C major, we know this because looking at the C major scale, 1 is C, 3 is E, and 5 is G. So we have 1, 3, 5, no flats or sharps or anything. All right, so that's why it's a major. D, going to the fifth one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So D, making D the first. Okay, so we have D, 1, 2, 3, F sharp, so F sharp, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. You know, we're going back to A, because if this is like a loop, we'll still have G, A, B, C, and so on. It just keeps looping like that. So we know that F sharp, after F sharp, we go back to A. All right, that's what I told you about octaves. All right, so figure out what kind of chord this is. we'll have to look at D in the D major scale. All right, so this is the D major scale. Is there a D in the D major scale? Yes. So that's one. All right, so is there an F sharp in the D major scale? Yes, there's an F sharp. All right, so is there an A in the D major scale? Yes, there's an A. That's the fifth. There's no sharp, or we didn't have to flat everything. Everything is natural here, so we know that this is a major. Okay, because it fits the 1 3 5 description perfectly. All right, so we have a major here. All right, so moving forward, now we'll treat the E, and that is the sixth. Okay, so making E our first here, we'll have 1, that's E, creating a triad, 1 2 3, that's G, after G, 1 2 3 4 5, so we go back to B. Okay, so here will be B. All right, so we want to know what kind of chord this is, and then we'll have to look at this from the E major scale. So these are the notes in the E major scale. We have 4 sharps in the E major scale. We have E, F sharp, G sharp, A, B, C sharp, D sharp, and E. All right, so is there an E in the E major scale? Yes, that's 1. Right, is there a G in the E major scale? No. Instead, we have a G sharp. That means the third here is not a G sharp. It's been flattened here. Okay, so we have a flat third here. Okay, it's looking like it might be a minor or diminished, but let's find out. All right, is there a B in the E major scale? Yes, there is. Okay, so we didn't have to, it's not flattened or anything, so we know that this now is a minor chord because it fits the 1 flat third and 5 description. All right, so we know that this is a minor. Okay, so now for the 7th, F sharp. So looking at F sharp as our root note from here, creating a triad from F sharp, we'll have F sharp, one, two, three, A. All right, F sharp, 1 2 3 4 5, and the 5th from F sharp will be C. All right, so let's find out what kind of chord this is, and these are the notes in the F sharp major scale. F sharp, G sharp, A sharp. That's a lot of sharps. F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, B, C sharp, D sharp, F, and back to F sharp. Okay, in the F sharp major scale. All right, is there an F sharp in the F sharp major scale? Yes, of course, that's the 1. Is there an A in the F sharp major scale? No, there isn't. We have an A sharp instead in the F sharp major scale. So here, the 3rd in the F sharp major scale is flattened. So now we know that we're looking at either a minor or diminished, but we will find out for sure by looking at the 5th. So is there a C in the F sharp minor scale? No, there isn't. Okay, we have C sharp instead. Okay, so here it's also flattened. The C sharp is also flattened here. So now we know that we have a 1 flat third and a flattened 5th. So now we know that we are looking at the diminished. All right, so this would be diminished. Okay, so now these are all the chords that are available to us, like the basics of chords in the G major or in the key of G major. Okay, so now we know that this here will be G major, A minor, B minor, C major, D major, E minor, and F sharp diminished. And these are the chords of the G in the key of G. All right, so now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, I hope this is not like rocket science. Okay, so don't worry, you get it. So these are all the chords available to us. So it means that if you play all those chords, because they are related, you will get a really pleasing sound. If you play them like in different ways, it doesn't have to be this in this sequence. It can be anyhow you want it. So when you hear in music, they say 1, 4, 5, most times, you know, they're talking about the 1 is a major, the 4 is a major, the 5 is a major. If they say we're playing in a 2, 5, 1 progression, you know, the 2 is a minor, the 5 is a major, and the 1 is a major. So guys, the interesting part is this portion here, this portion of the equation right here is the same for every major key. So for every major key, even if you have C, even if we're working with C major, you'd have the first would be a major, second would be a minor, third would be minor, fourth would be major, fifth would be major, sixth would be minor, seventh would be diminished for every key that you want to work with. So this is like a formula. So some of those chords as a beginner should already be you should already be familiar with them. All right. So let's apply this on the guitar. The G major scale by itself will sound like this. Right? That's the G major scale. Alright? So putting all these things that we've learned into practice, the first chord will be G major, second chord A minor, third chord B minor, fourth chord C major, okay, fifth chord D major, sixth E minor, seventh F sharp diminished, and then back to 1. That's G major. Alright, so guys, you see how cool this chord sounds. I don't have to play it like that, like in this sequence. I can play G, D minor, okay, so I just changed the sequence and I played it differently, and it still sounded great because they are related. So anyone you play, any chord you play, any sequence, any chord progression you play will sound good. So let's just take let me give you another example. So let's just take a 2, 5, 1 progression. So a 2, 5, 1 progression will sound like this. 2 is A minor, so these are the basics. Exactly, this is like the formula and the rules. Once you know this, you can now change the rules, okay? But you need to know what the rules are first before you change it. There are 1,001 chords you can play. There's so many things you can do, and that's why we now start changing this to minor 7th, flat 5, dominant 7, and stuff like that. But major 7s and all of that. But you have to know this first before you dive into that world. Okay, so I'll see you guys later. Take care of yourselves and bye.